Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would reiterate this point because I discussed this in another video recently. And I've just really started deciding to take the barbell curl very seriously as an exercise. And, there's some interesting points to discuss with that. Because obviously it's a fantastic barbell exercise. I mean, doing it like this, we're working the bicep through the full range of motion. And as far as even the data and biomechanics go, this should give really good bicep and brachialis development. Right? We know that. Okay, because of where it's at in the positions. And I think people don't realize the top half of a curl usually involves a little more brachialis. That's why people think of it as the peak and the contraction. And the lower half is going to involve a little more bicep in terms of just the ratios between the two. Okay. Like all exercises do not work all heads of a muscle or parts of muscles in an area the same, like through the full range of motion. And there's actually evidence and anatomy on what I just said. Seen some good experts discuss it. But when it comes over to the topic of building other muscles, something that we have to keep in mind, this is still a structural standing full body exercise involving multiple joints. And for example, and I'll mention something that Jamie brought up in one of the vlogs. I don't remember the name at this point, and I was trying to hit him up to, hey, what was that football player's name? But a couple of points of interest. He brought that up, that there was absolutely a famous NFL player who the only lifting the guy did was barbell curls, right? He did barbell curls, but the guy was still jacked. Obviously, he had big arms. And of course, because he did all the football practice and the pushing and stuff involved in that, and sprinting and those things, and good genetics, of course, he was obviously jacked in general, but the guy gained muscle in other places from just the barbell curls. But of course, granted, he was going to have good arms because of that. But that's a good example. Also, I saw a guy, and I thought this was interesting. There was a guy on Facebook I saw in my feed, and in the reels he came through, and he was pointing out, he's doing some flexing. He's like, look guys, I do have a little bit of lat and pec. And I was looking at his thing. He really only does arm work for his upper body. And I think he does like some lower body stuff, some leg work and deadlifts and whatever. But because he had some situation with his scapula, because there's some problem with him kind of pinned in place, he's got a medical issue, and accordingly he can't really do lat pull downs or rows or bench pressing or anything. So because of his situation, he doesn't really do any chest or lat work. He just does arms, but he does tons and tons and tons of heavy curls and even standing barbell curls and tricep extensions, right? He did all these things. And he's like, I still actually have lats. Now, was he disproportionate? Yes, his biceps and triceps were obviously disproportionately large to his torso. But it was not a case of, you see that, and a lot of us would think, because we're thinking of these as more isolation movements, except he's doing real big, heavy standing curls and stuff, that, we would look at that and say, oh, well, this person would obviously not have any pecs or lats. He wouldn't even look like he lifts other than his arms. That would be our logic, but the logic of many people. But he did have some pec, and he did have some lat. You could tell that he lifts. Even though it wasn't proportionate, there was actual development there. And it was undeniable. Like, you look at, okay, I mean, he didn't, again, they were not proportionate. The guy had something like 18-inch arms, 18 and a half, whatever. With lats and pecs, it looked like he'd only been lifting for a year, But they were definitely, absolutely bigger than an untrained person, Not on par with some of these smaller influencers you see on in fitness, or the smaller guys, But that's what he had just from arm work. So it kind of starts begging the question of, we saw that. That's a couple of examples, and I mean, those are perfect examples, and that guy was a great example because he literally can't bench press. He literally can't do a lat pull down. He physically has a problem with it. But those muscles still grew. Okay? That's interesting. And then look at what's going on with this. Look at what all you see contracting and flexing as I'm doing these. You know, a nice heavy full range of motion curl. We'll start looking at data. I mean, again, EMGs are not the be-all end-all, and they shouldn't be for a whole host of reasons. But look at some of the EMG studies. They show that standing barbell curls, again, like what I'm doing here, a long range of motion one, they light up the erectors. They light up your shoulders. And I can honestly say, as I'm doing these, even though I feel obviously the bicep doing more work than any other muscle, particularly on that eccentric rep, I feel a ton of bicep there. Like I feel it more than anything else. But I feel other muscles. I feel my erectors. I feel my glutes. Okay? And I deadlift over 600 pounds. Let's not pretend that a little bit of curl like that is going to really light them up for me. People would say, well, maybe because you're not super strict. But even when I do them strict, I still feel that stuff. Okay, but that shoulder movement involved too. What are we working? The delts, the traps? I feel all those things. Well, we know a curl like this is a valid front delt exercise, which also means that it's a valid side delt. Look at the angles of it. Stop and think about that for a moment. Look where your angles are. You telling me the medial delt doesn't get any work there? Enough to stimulate it? Or that the upper traps? Absolutely do. Basic biomechanics should tell you they are getting some work. And if this is fatiguing work with enough volume and enough workload, it will add to the effect. Okay? So those are all muscles that we think of from the front as aesthetic muscles. But again, let's keep in mind, this is not some preacher bench locked in or something. Okay, this is a full range of motion curl where I'm locking at the bottom, bringing it all the way to my face. Is absolutely a shoulder exercise. Absolutely a forearm exercise. Possibly a core exercise. I mean, we've seen these examples of these people, they got growth in a lot of other places from just arm work. Okay? Treat this lift seriously. That's what I'm doing. I am taking the curl seriously as a lift. Train it. Train it. Take it through a full range of motion. Focus on it hard. Work on progressive overload on it. All right? Put some real effort into it. And it may make you bigger overall. And it's certainly going to make you look better. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.